Hello, everybody. Coming down the stretch here with the penultimate lecture of this course. Welcome to 1980 and Ronald Reagan's victory in the 1980 election, hence 1980, right? This covering chapter 29, Triumph of the Right. So, Ronald Reagan wins the election in 1980. Jimmy Carter's a one-term president. Not everyone's happy with this. It's morning in America. That was the theme in both the 80 and 84 elections. He'll win again in 1984. And as you can see, not everyone is happy about it. But hey, he's got a plan to get America back on track and get away from the horrors of the 70s. First thing he's going to do is hopefully outlaw disco. I think it was around as late as 1982. This morning I heard some horrifying slow 70s music on the radio, but don't worry, I've contacted the FCC and local law enforcement. I'm on it. Now, first thing Reagan's going to do is get the economy out of the ditch it's been stuck in. It's called Reaganomics, or some people like call it supply side economics, and it actually works. It works quite well, actually. There's 4 points. One is reducing income taxes to stimulate growth. Less taxes you pay, the more money you have. More money you have, you're going to spend it on something stupid, and that something stupid has to be manufactured, put together, shipped out to a store, advertising, a truck's got to get it there, hire a trucker, all this kind of stuff, and so it stimulates growth, and everyone's got a job and they can spend it on stuff. Also, direct payments to people living in poverty, people who can't find a job quite yet. Hey, you give them some money so they can, not have their house foreclosed on. They don't turn to crime. The trick is trying to make sure these people don't stay stuck on direct payments their entire life. This is a problem that's gone on for a very long time. It dates back to days of the Roman dole. Number three, I see I wrote 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Well, number three is this one's a little bit tricky, creating government jobs to keep people working. So they have a job, they have money coming, they go spend it. The problem is, how do you pay for this government job? You do it through your income taxes. At the same time, you're going to reduce income tax. See the problem? Plus, it's a government job. Are they doing anything useful? Yeah, that's another problem that's been around since the dawn of time. But, it appears in 1980 to be working out. And of course, increasing regulations on business to promote competition. This is about breaking up monopolies again, right? Dates back to the Sherman Antitrust Act. If you got one place that sells pizza for $10, there's really nowhere else you can go. But if you got two places, one sells pizza for 10, one sells for 8, you got a choice. Hey, there's a third place that offers for 7, it brings down prices. Plus, all three of these stores, people got to work there. They work there, they got jobs, they got money coming in. So, once again, stimulate growth. Just keep the monopolies away. So, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And it works. The economy just explodes in the 80s and does really well in the 90s, too. Reagan foreign policy, hey, forget containment. But then there was detente briefly. Remember that? Well, forget containment, forget detente. It's rollback time. We're going to push communism back to where it came from and destroy it. The Cold War confrontation starts up in Central America. Cuba, was communist, trying to create other communist countries around it. Nicaragua went communist in 79, and that was a civil war in El Salvador with communist guerrillas there. So we decide that's where we're going to start pushing people back. To do this, the U.S. military needs to get built up again from Vietnam. We got old equipment, got to get new equipment, update stuff, get new people in there, get a whole new mindset. And we also get involved in the Persian Gulf. Hey, Iran, remember us? Yeah, we got our hostages back. We're back. Payback is, you know what that's all about. You mess with us again, you're going to get a bloody nose. A couple times Iran did try to mess with us, and we smacked them down pretty hard. Now, over in the Soviet Union, things are changing too. Our friend from 1964 to 82, Brezhnev, he finally died. We got a new guy in charge. His name's Yuri Andropov. And he's a little bit of a confrontational guy. We know this because he used to be head of the KGB. Yeah, their secret police. So you can kind of imagine how he sees the world. If you remember your world history, the Hungarian Revolution in 1956, when Hungary tried to break loose from the Soviet Union, the Russians smashed them down. Guess who the point man was on this? Yeah, he was supposed to be the alleged ambassador, Soviet ambassador to Hungary. Now he's directing the entire military effort with the generals. Czechoslovakia tried to leave the Soviet bloc peacefully in 1968. Guess who they sent to make sure it doesn't happen? Yep, or your friend Yuri Andropov. Also a LensCrafter model. Okay, not really. I made that part up, but I don't know. It might be able to work. Good side job for him when the Soviet Union collapses. Well, he's not around that long. Only a couple years. Are you noticing a pattern here? Yeah, next guy's Konstantin Chernenko. He's only there for a year. So Andropov 82 to 84, Chernenko 84, 85. Yeah, the Soviet system is sick and literally dying on them. Andropov drop off. You like that? Andropov drops off in 84. Chernenko's going to check out in 85. Maybe it's time to find somebody who didn't cheer for the 1919 Green Bay Packers. And here comes Mikhail Gorbachev. He's going to be around a while, 1985 until, spoiler alert, Soviet Union collapses in 91. But he's going to be around for a while. Look at this. He gets along with Reagan. So maybe, just maybe, this Cold War thing might end on a high note with everybody happy. Maybe. Gonna find out. Meanwhile, the U.S. military has shaken off the rust from Vietnam. In 1983, the small island nation in the Caribbean, Grenada, very, very far south, almost within sight of Venezuela and Guyana down there. It's a small country, not terribly important. Nobody really notices anything about it until it declares itself to be a communist regime. And there's 2,000 American students going to medical school there. Now, why are they going to medical school in the Caribbean? Well, that's not the issue. The issue is they're threatening to use 2,000 Americans as hostages. And we just came out of Iran. So in October of 1983, the U.S. military rolls right through Grenada. The small Cuban garrison there gets smacked around. The Grenadian military just kind of waves us in, and it's all over before anything can happen. All right, well, if you're going to win the Super Bowl, you don't play New England on day one. You go after the Cleveland Browns first, right? So getting ourselves back in shape militarily. Sometimes in the pursuit of rolling back communism, you do some stuff you really shouldn't do, and you get caught, and the whole thing is just kind of embarrassing. Remember I mentioned that Nicaragua had gone communist in 1979? Well, there are some people trying to overthrow the communist government in Nicaragua, contra-revolutionaries, counter, right, contra. These rebels are attempting to overthrow Nicaragua's communist government, and we'd like to support them. Problem is, it's, the 80s, and Vietnam had just ended in 73. So the Senate, controlled by the Democratic Party at the time, did not want to send advisors and aid because remember what happened in Vietnam. And we decided we want to send them weapons, but like I said, it's not entirely legal. So they come up with this weird, convoluted scheme outside of Congress, okay, to sell weapons to Iran, of all people, use the money from that to buy weapons to give to the Contras. That's how we're trying to get around the law passed by Congress. It's not totally illegal, it's not completely legal, but we did get caught, and it's kind of embarrassing, and Reagan gets a black eye over this. No one's talking impeachment. No one's doing anything like this. We're just trying to avoid another Vietnam scenario. It was very embarrassing. Ironically, Nicaragua had an election in 1990 and ended up voting the communists out. Yeah, isn't that something? In 1988, we got a new election. We got Michael Dukakis, another eyebrow guy, Greek guy here from Boston, Massachusetts, going up against George H.W. Bush, which is Reagan's vice president. Now, usually it's very difficult for one party to win 3 elections in a row. But when your opponent is Michael Dukakis, it's kind of hard not to lose. And that's kind of what happened. Everyone looked at Dukakis, said, great guy, good governor, not a very good president. Guess they're still thinking about Jimmy Carter. George H.W., not the most inspirational guy in the world, but hey, he's been there for 8 years, so he probably knows what he's doing. And he's just going to keep doing what Reagan's doing, and that's working, so let's vote for Bush. All right, so number 3, got a hat trick out of this. Good job, George. Well, the Berlin Wall comes down on November 9th, 1989. Finally, Gorbachev been trying to reform communism, and he decides to make it more accessible to the world. So one way to make sure communism might have a chance of surviving is to knock down the wall and those machine guns pointing at your own people, maybe point them somewhere up, like, directly up or something. Communism might be coming to a screeching halt. People in East Berlin go to visit West Berlin and they get to come back because they know they can go back the next day. Some ominous rumbles coming out of the Soviet Union. Some of the hardcore old school communists don't like what Gorbachev is doing. That might be a problem somewhere down the road. But November the 9th, 1989, hey, everybody in Berlin is partying. Meanwhile, in Panama, in December of 1989, a month later, the dictator down there, Manuel Noriega, gets very upset with the United States. Well, there's a lot of reasons behind this sort of thing. A lot of it had to do with, aid not going to Panama. We figure since communism's on the way out and we don't need fanatical anti-communists anymore, we're going to talk to Noriega about maybe relinquishing power and establishing a democracy. He doesn't like the idea. We withhold the aid. He gets mad and screaming about taking the 40,000 Americans in the Panama Canal Zone as hostage. Not a good idea to start screaming hostage situation in the middle of the Reagan-Bush years. So what's going to happen? Well, just before Christmas of 1989, U.S. military invades Panama, and this thing is over very quickly. As for Manuel Noriega, didn't work out so great for him. Nope, welcome to the pen. Don't threaten to take American hostage. We don't like that. Well, Soviet Union's behaving itself, and, there's always somebody running around somewhere is going to cause a problem. And in 1990, 1 year before the actual Gulf War, Saddam Hussein of Iraq invades Kuwait. Most people wouldn't really notice or even care, but they're sitting on top of the oil, which the Western world needs. Remember 1973 and 1979? Yeah, we don't want to see that again, so we're trying to warn Hussein to please leave Kuwait. He's not going for it. He's got all kinds of issues with the Arab world. That's more of a world history thing. We put 500,000 soldiers in Saudi Arabia, 6 aircraft carrier battle groups, 1,000 airplanes. Iran decides to stay quiet during this whole time. And we try to get Hussein to leave Iraq. He doesn't, so on the 16th day of January 1991, we hit him with Operation Desert Storm. 40 days of bombing from the air, and the Iraqi military has been messed up pretty bad. There's a 4-day ground campaign. It's like blasting fish in a barrel with a shotgun. They never stood a chance. We bombed them for 40 days. The U.S., Britain, Egypt sends people. We got Saudi Arabia helping us out. Yep, even France shows up. Okay, they're helping us, so I can't complain too much about them this time around. Pin them over here, swing around, crush them in the vise. This thing's over before it even started. But they left Saddam Hussein in Baghdad. A lot of people say should have gone on to Baghdad, overthrew him, and set up a friendly government. And some people say if you do that, you lead to a guerrilla war, you get stuck. So in 1991, they leave him there. But for some reason, we go back in 2003 to overthrow him and set up a new government, and you know the whole story from there. Sometimes you really wonder who's running the country if they have any idea what they're doing. Well, 1991 is not over yet. Right after we come from the Gulf War, the Soviet Union starts having problems. Like I said, the old school communists didn't like what Gorbachev was doing. He was increasing contact with the West. They starting to allow some kind of free enterprise here. Ooh, and there's other parties other than the Communist Workers' Party starting to show up, and you can't have that in the Soviet Union. So the KGB, remember, your friend Gorbachev, Andropov's friends try to launch a coup to get rid of Gorbachev. And then they order, and people start protesting, something you never saw in the Soviet Union before, and the KGB orders the Soviet army to open fire on the people. And they say no. Armies don't like shooting at their own people. And when that happens, it's all over. The coup plotters are arrested. One of them committed suicide. 2 other guys, they put him life in prison. He's pretty old, so what's the point in executing him? Gorbachev comes back, but it's too late, man. The genie is out of the bottle. Everybody wants democracy. Everybody wants free enterprise. Everybody wants to watch the Super Bowl. The Soviet Union completely collapses. Russia rises up in its place, still pretty big. All these various Soviet republics come free. Here's Kazakhstan, Borat's place there. Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. Over here's Ukraine and Belarus. I just noticed something about this map. This is modern day Russia. This is World War II Europe over here. That's interesting. Well, point is, Soviet Union collapses, Russia rises in its place. The Cold War is over. Kennan's containment had finally worked. It took 44 years, but we finally got around and pulled it off. Yay! Well, 1992 rolls around, time for another election. Soviet Union officially ended, by the way, December 26th of 1991, and the Republic of Russia came into existence on January 1st, 1992. So what was going on for those 4 days over there? Yeah, somebody got a final paycheck in the Soviet government, is what it sounds like to me. But anyway, 1992, we got an election over here because it's been 4 years. Now, if you think it's tough to win 3 terms in a row, imagine what it's like to try to win 4. Take a little drink there. Well, it's hard to win 3, and 4 is going to be even harder. And people are just not very happy. They're very tired, I guess. Republican fatigue. There was a slight recession, but the economy is still booming. It's just people want change. And they've seen, they've seen Bush here since 1980 running around. Here comes Bill Clinton from the Democratic Party, but not everyone's happy with him because he's got a lot of baggage. So here comes Ross Perot, the independent. And independents usually don't do very well, except, if your name's Ross Perot. Look at this, 18.9% of the vote. Yeah, that's still third place, but look at this, man. It causes a serious impact in the Democratic and Republican columns. And Clinton wins the election with 43%. Usually, if you win 43%, you lose. But in a three-way race, it's enough to win. And this 18.9, it had to play a role, man. Maybe Bush would have won that term. Maybe Clinton would have still won by a larger margin. It's hard to say, but we got a new president, and it's Bill Clinton in 1992, inaugurated in 93, of course. Now, I don't know what goes on with elections these days. They seem to be incredibly vicious, incredibly insane. It wasn't always like that. Way back there in the dark ages of 1992, when I was a kid looking at this election, it didn't seem like they hated each other. Oh, they took shots at each other, but it was just business, man. We're just trying to win an election. Here are the 3 guys in their debate, and they appeared to be having a great time. When it was over, they were hanging around talking to each other. Even the guy who eventually lost, and the guy who didn't expect to win, and the other guy who was trying to win and barely did. But everybody was having fun with each other. It didn't seem as hateful as it does now. Once again, remember, United States of America, U.S., we're in this together. Once the election's over, it's over, man. See you in 4 years. Till then, we work together and make the country a better place. I like to call 1992 the year of the pie chart because your friend Perot, he had pie charts all over the place. These debates, he had a little easel put up the pie stand. He was talking about government expenditures and unemployment and all kinds of things. Had a pie chart for everything. Here's the election results for 1992 and a pie chart, of course. Clinton with 43%. Usually you lose with that. We round Bush up to 38 and rounded up Perot to 19. Not sure who this guy was. Nonetheless, Clinton wins it. Year of the pie chart. Talking about pies, I put a chocolate pie in there. No particular reason. I bet this is everyone's favorite slide from the entire course. Hey, remember the Democratic Party shouting about how much they hated Confederate flags? Hey, someone explain this one to me. Yeah, Clinton Gore, 92. On which party was running the South during the Civil War, by the way? Yeah, Democratic Party. This is why you study history. If you take Mr. H's class, they can't pull the wool over your eyes. Clinton, the economy is doing great in the 90s as well, and Clinton strolls and yawns his way to a very boring re-election victory in 1996. And in 1998, he's hanging out with someone who's clearly not his wife, an intern named Monica Lewinsky. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning. They're not playing Monopoly at 3 a.m. in the Oval Office. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. No, what were you doing exactly? Well, we're not going to get into that. You can look that up on your own, just saying it wasn't right. But the big problem is that when they were called out on it, he lied under oath. I mean, this right here is called perjury. This is a felony. And here comes the impeachments. Now, last time we had an impeachment, of course, was with at this point was of course with Johnson way back in the 19th century. They threatened to impeach Nixon, and remember, with Nixon, he was a Republican, and the people leading the charge were also other Republicans, Sam Erwin of North Carolina, because he'd broken the law. Now, in 1998, this is clearly a felony, did it on national television, so the evidence is irrefutable. But instead of defending the law, they broke down on exact party lines. Democrats defended their guy, Republicans, of course, voted against it. Uh, they could have found a compromise, like maybe apologized to everybody and life goes on, sort of thing. But it was very bitter. It was very insane. All kinds of accusations running around. In the end, they voted and he stayed in office. And of course, in 2000, he's leaving anyway. So I guess they wanted to avoid an even bigger problem, but left a really bad impression on everybody on the way out. Also in 1999, we started bombing Serbia. Well, some people charge that Clinton was doing this to draw attention away from the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. But what had happened was after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia fell apart, and there was a lot of fighting between Bosnians and Croatians and Serbs and everything going on. And we had actually brokered a peace treaty, and the Serbians did not pull back as they were supposed to, so we sent in the stealth bombers, who did such a great job in Iraq, to smack around Serbia. And we were bombing Serbia pretty bad, and they nailed one of our stealth bombers. The one you can't see, well, they saw it and shot it down. Actually, no. They put up so much lead in the sky you couldn't help but hit something, and one was a Serbian and one was a stealth bomber. We tried to deny they knocked down the bomber, but yeah, they're standing on top of the wreckage. Fortunately, we got our pilot out, so still didn't work out too well. Eventually, the Serbians had to back down and back off, but this was a little bit embarrassing. Allegedly, someone sent this postcard to the White House from Serbia. I don't know if this is true or not, but you gotta admit it's kind of funny in a sick sort of way. The problem with shooting down a stealth bomber is that you don't really get the wreckage back. I mean, you could ask about, hey, can you send back our shot down bomber? But I don't think Serbia is going to do that. In fact, I know they didn't do it. They sent the metal and the composite metal and whatever circuitry they could find, sent it right to China and Russia. And before you know it, China and Russia have their own stealth fighter. Yeah, imagine the timing here. Remember? Throw a rock in the pond and the ripples go in different directions. You never know what happens. Yep, you bomb Serbia. One lost a stealth bomber. Pieces get sent to China and Russia. China and Russia got their own stealth fighters now. Well, December 31, 1999, it was the era of Y2K. Oh my God, the world's going to end. The computer is going to go crazy because the computer can't tell the difference between 1999 and 2000. I have no idea who came up with this. Probably somebody trying to sell, power surge protectors or something, but absolutely nothing happened. And I knew nothing was going to happen because computers are based on math. So you're trying to tell me computer can't tell the difference between 1999 and 2000? Oh, the world's going to end. Everybody's going to die. Here's a picture of Harrisburg, PA. Here's a picture of Harrisburg, PA. Same picture. Why? Nothing changed. So on January 1st, 2000, everybody was still here. The world hasn't been destroyed. There is no apocalypse, but don't worry, there's plenty of time for an apocalypse later. Alrighty, this is chapter 29. We're headed for chapter 30, the recent past. One more to go before we cross the finish line. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later.